All right. Hello, AFC. My name is Ray Coulter. I am your incoming president for 2021, and it is my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Miss Jessica Cummerley from the College of Central Florida. She is the AFC Legislative Committee chair, and she will be giving you a legislative preview for 2021. If you are going to use social media, please post using the hashtag AFC 2020 Vision. Jessica, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate that. So again, my name is Jessica Cummerley. I am the Director of Government Relations and Special Assistant to the President at the College of Central Florida, and it's a pleasure to join all of you today. I am not a long-winded person, so you all know, and so please feel free to ask questions through the chat, and Ray will let us know what questions you have. So I really appreciate you joining me today. I'm going to start off with a little bit about me, if I can figure out how to do this. Oh, it's not going to the next slide. There it goes. Can y'all see that? Yeah. Okay, cool. So a little bit about me. I went to University of Florida. I did go to College of Central Florida a long time ago. It's kind of how I figured out that I wanted to major in political science and be involved in politics somehow. So I'm really appreciative and thankful for the college system. Here are some pictures of me. I did get the opportunity to work in the Florida Senate for a couple years. And I kind of got in the college system because the senator that I worked for was chairman of higher education. So we got some really cool experiences back in the day. We got to, there's all kinds of days at the Capitol. And then after I left the Florida Senate, I worked at Florida Polytechnic University. So I do have a Board of Governors state university system background as well, which has been very helpful working for the college system. And I'm very excited to serve as your chair this next year. So I'm just going to briefly kind of go over who our leadership is. Here is the guy on the left, the taller guy is the Senate president. That's Senator Wilton Simpson. And he served on the board for Pasco Hernando State College. He did not go to university at all. He is pro workforce development and education and short-term degree programs. So he is going to serve as an advocate for us this next year. He is an egg farmer, so he is big into agriculture, and he represents Citrus, Pasco, and Hernando counties. On the right is our new Speaker of the House, who is Chris Sprouse, and he represents Pinellas County. He's an attorney in Tampa. He's a former assistant state attorney, and he did suffer from Hodgkin's disease, so he does have a passion for healthcare. Some of his other priorities this year are water issues, poor prenatal care, fixing child welfare systems, literacy, education. And so what I'm going to do really quickly is yesterday was organizational session at the Capitol, and that's where they swear in any new elected officials. They swear in everybody that was elected, but it's a big deal if it's your first time. And then everybody else that was elected gets sworn in as well. So in the House, every House member is reelected every 2 years. And in the Senate, they're reelected every 4 years. So the way it works in the Senate is every 2 years, it's the opposite number. So this past election was odd number senators were elected. And 2 years ago, it was even number senators. Is there a question? Do I see one?
No, someone was just asking to repeat the name of Wilton Simpson, but we've got it covered in the chat.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So I'm going to show
you, Jess.
Thank you. I'm going to show a very quick video. I just wanted to share with you what Speaker Sprouse shared about higher education yesterday, just so you have an idea of what the environment is going to look like. So let me just get to that really quickly.
Laws that will make Florida the national leader in promoting cottage industries. In Florida, we should be in the business of new business. We've had a good deal of discussion in recent years regarding the role of higher education in Florida's economic life. Our taxpayer-funded colleges and universities should not be job training centers, but they also cannot divorce themselves from the economic needs of our state. And while our public universities should offer a full range of degree options, it does not follow that we should subsidize every degree to the same degree. We should consider changing the funding incentives to reward universities for enrolling students in programs that are either tied to a high demand occupation or require an exceptional degree of intellectual rigor. In addition, we could offer a high-low scholarship, which would provide a 50% discount on tuition for students who enroll in a major course linked to a high demand job. But if universities aren't just about jobs, neither should they be resorts with an occasional class. Virtual education can expand access to non-traditional college students and students whose family obligations make it difficult to enroll at a major research university. We should offer those students a free seat scholarship that would provide a discount on tuition if they opt for a virtual class in lieu of an in-person one. Floridians are made as much as we are born. And higher education can be an effective way to lure young, talented people to our state. But let's consider tapping into one of our greatest resources, our senior population, and create a scholarship. To our grandparents, if you have a grandchild who is a top performing student in another state, they could qualify for in-state tuition at a Florida university. Our higher education system will, of course, be central to our budget conversations this session. It's no secret that Florida's economy has stumbled as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we may be facing a revenue shortfall in putting together this year's state budget. But where some people may see crisis, we see opportunity. We need to stop congratulating ourselves on how much we spend on a problem and start asking ourselves what we are getting for the money we spend. We thought we were spending millions of dollars to help women and children in the fight against domestic violence.
So I wanted to share with you all that that's what the speaker talked about yesterday in his presentation for organizational session and higher education. Let me just get back to my presentation. So my next slide is so they haven't announced committee assignments yet in the House or in the Senate. However, the Speaker of the House did announce some legislators as like committee chairs. So Chris Latvala is going to be our Education and Employment Chair. So it's important that we know that. And he also represents Pinellas County. And then we'll find out who serves under him as well. So the way that works is there's a big committee, the Education and Employment Committee, and then they'll have subcommittees underneath that. So they're going to have a higher education committee that serves under that Education and Employment Committee. And here's the next one. Just so you have an idea of what it looks like, the breakdown. In the Florida House, there are currently 78 Republicans and 42 Democrats. I will tell you that the Republicans won over 5 additional seats this past election. And in the Florida Senate, there's 24 Republicans and 16 Democrats, and the Republicans did win 1 seat by about 30 votes in Miami this election as well. I wanted to briefly go over the Council of Presidents priorities. These are not finalized. The COP is meeting privately on Friday, and they will be discussing what our priorities are. So what we're looking at, we've been talking about these the last couple of months, is conserve our program fund, invest in Florida college system infrastructure, and then maintain funding for Complete Florida Plus program or Florida Virtual Campus.
Jessica, before we move on, there's a question regarding your last slide from Daniela Pierre. It says, is the pandemic and public emergencies a new committee?
It is, yes, it is. So we'll see what that, we have, you never know what's gonna be presented. So we'll see what they come up with, what kind of legislation they're gonna share with us this year. Any other questions, Ray?
Not at this time.
Okay. Okay, so again, here are 3 priorities that are not official, but they are most likely the ones we are moving forward with, and I'm going to go through each one separately so you have a better idea of why. And so my first one is, you may be wondering why we're not asking for additional funding, and I'm going to kind of explain that a little better. Just so you're aware, this is from last year, but you can see education makes up almost 29% of the state budget. So it's a large chunk of money. However, as you probably all are aware, because of COVID-19, there's a lot less money in the budget. So in August, the Revenue Estimating Conference gave an update from the former Senate President, Bill Galvano, and it was down around 3.4 billion. But for this fiscal year, the rest of this fiscal year and next fiscal year, it's down about $11 billion. And the whole budget is roughly 93 billion, which I show you. So we're going to be roughly down about 10%. And so that's why just conserving our program fund is really important to us this year, because we feel that our narrative is really important, and we're trying to share with legislators, or our goal is to share with them that we're the solution to this economic downturn, where people can turn to us to get a short-term, get their education in a short-term program so that they can find work. It's just, that's kind of what we're looking at right now. And I just kind of give y'all an update of what we're kind of been going through right now as far as our system. The governor's office asked us to hold back 6% of funding. And then last month, they asked us to move it up to 8.5% funding. So we're trying to each college is trying to come up with a plan to hold back 8.5% of their budget. And then when we submitted our legislative budget request to the state, we also had to include a backup plan for a 10% cut to that budget. So your presidents and your colleges and your CFOs are working really hard to figure out the best way to keep everyone in their job, but yet be able to cut the budget the best way that they possibly can. And our chancellor's, she's been working really hard for us as well. And so the way it works is the Florida Office of Economic and Demographic Research, which I can, if you are interested, I know I'm trying not to get too deep in the weeds, but if you're interested in more information about this, more like in the weeds stuff, just reach out to me and I'll be able to give you that information. They're the ones that put together the estimating conferences for the budget and for us for our enrollment, and they share that with the legislature. And those numbers that they put together play a big role in the budget for this next year. And so they're going to be releasing our enrollment numbers. And as you probably all know, our enrollment numbers for spring publicly have been down. And that's why it's so important for us to get our numbers up, because, well, it's important anyway, but it's also important because as far as our state budget, as far as your college getting funding, it's really important for our numbers not to look too badly. So that's a little bit of like side note as with enrollment as far as our budget is concerned. So that's why conserving our program fund is so important. Is there a question, Ray?
No, it was answered in the chat.
Okay, cool. Thank you, whoever is doing that. I appreciate it.
Just sharing your email with everybody, Jess.
Okay, and I'm gonna have that at the end. So you're gonna have my social media information, so you can message me there, you can text me and email me, and I'll have that at the end of this presentation. I just kind of wanted to share with you kind of how it works. So at least 30 days before session, and I'm gonna go over those dates as well, and that's the beginning of March this year. the governor will make his budget recommendations. And then during committee weeks, which is January and February, the legislature will draft their budgets. And then at the end of session, they hold these conference committees. And I got to go last year. And basically, if you're on the higher education appropriations committee, you have to be in Tallahassee, and you'll get a message, an email from like the House Majority Office saying your conference is going to meet in 30 minutes. So they'll literally meet at like Saturday at 11 p.m. And then the Senate and the House will meet at 11 p.m. at night, and then they'll talk about the budget and what changes they want to make. And if they don't come to agreement, then they meet again. And if they don't come in agreement, then it goes to the Speaker and the Senate President. It's called bumping to the Senate President and the Speaker of the House until there's a final version called the Conference Committee Report. And then that Conference Committee Report, it has to sit. So the House and Senate vote on that Conference Committee Report. And then it has to rest. It has to sit for 72 hours. And then after that, then it can go and be like finally voted on and then delivered to the governor. So that's why our legislators have to be up there so much, because they can get called at midnight for a conference committee. The next slide I want to talk about is our Pico Fund, which I said investing in our Florida college system infrastructure.
Jessica, before you move on, I'm sorry to interrupt. There are two questions here that are pertinent to what you were just speaking on.
Okay.
First is from Jan Lloyd Leslie. It says, I've heard that the state may be holding a special session in December to possibly provide more budget cuts for this fiscal year. Any updates, or is this simply a rumor?
So I have pretty good intel with the House and Senate. And so they actually thought that they would be in special session right now because they all had to be up there for organizational session. And that didn't happen. So they were kind of surprised. So it doesn't look like it's going to happen. If it does, it'll happen when they're already planned to go up there, because I do feel that the House and Senate are trying to be, aware, or whatever you want to call it, because it costs a lot of money to get all those legislators up there. So I think if it does happen, it'll happen probably during a committee week, and those start in January, which I'll have those dates as well. I don't think it'll happen in December.
Okay. The second question is from Dr. Jose Toro Clark, and this refers to a question that was answered previously in the chat. What is the difference between the university versus state college, community college budget?
Well, they're just separate. I mean, so there's, I wish I should have, I thought about taking screenshots of the budget so you could see. The budget document, just so you all aware, is like 600 pages each year. And so you have to, as a government relations professional, I have to go through all of it because there's always something hidden somewhere in it. So, but it's separate. So it'll have an education budget section, and it'll have K through 12, it'll have colleges, and it'll have universities. So it has a split up, even though we're in the same education bucket. Are there any questions about that?
It doesn't seem so.
Okay. Okay, so I wanted to talk about our infrastructure. So PICO is Public Educational Capital Outlay. That's what PICO stands for. And PICO comes from a tax from landlines. So as you all can imagine, that's not doing so hot the last couple years. And so we share this pot of money that goes to building new buildings. It also goes to building maintenance with our schools and also our universities. And as you look at this chart, you can see how much K through 12 has gotten in the orange. Universities are gray, and then the Florida college system is blue. So this last year, these last 2 years actually, we've gotten 3% of the PICO funds. And part of that too is, so they break it up. So there's new projects, there's like building new buildings section, and then there's maintenance. And we noticed, I guess it's this will be the third year that we weren't getting any maintenance money. So we have buildings across the state that are falling apart, and we haven't been able to get the legislature to secure that funding again. And I'm hopeful that we can get money again, but I don't know how well COVID-19 helped us, because now we have proved that we can serve our students completely online. So we go into a legislator's office and say, hey, we need money to fix this building, or we need this new building. And they'll say, well, you've been able to function just fine. You've been able to teach your classes remotely. So this is a big priority for COP, the Council of Presidents, and also all the lobbyists, because we don't understand why this is happening to us. Part of the reason why school boards or school districts have been getting so much funding is they've been giving a lot of funding from Pico to charter schools. So this last year, $1 million of Pico funds, we got 13 million for 28 colleges. So that's that. I'll get off my bandwagon on this. But does anybody have any questions about this?
There is one that just posted from Dr. Jose Toro Clark. Why is it so hard to us, State College, Community College budget at the Florida State House Senate?
Why is it so hard for us to get funding? So we're kind of like, okay, so there's a university system, and they have the Board of Governors. So they have this governing board, and the people that serve on the Board of Governors, this is very raw, and so I hope don't make this public, please. So there's the Board of Governors, and they're appointed by the governor. They're appointed by legislators, and they fund a lot of legislator campaigns. So they have a lot of influence because they give money to get people elected. So you have that, and then you have the State Board of Education, who helps district schools, and I mean, a lot of them donate money as well. And then you have us, who are kind of stuck in the middle between these huge conglomerates, and we don't really have this like powerful governing board that helps us. I mean, we have our trustees, and we have really great trustees, but we pulled out of the state system too. I don't remember when that was. So that and that's been good because we have more flexibility, but then we don't have as much leadership and power in certain places. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. So that's kind of how we are. And then you think about like legislators, a lot of them did go to college. And so you leave, let's say you did go to a state college. Where do you go? You go to UF or you go to Florida State. So when you're in Tallahassee, you're like, ooh, my alma mater, go Seminoles. So then you have the Seminole president coming to your office, and it's so cool, and like you're a new legislator, and of course you're going to try to help them, because it's like, it's not as cool to say. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I mean, that's what we deal with in Tallahassee. It's very frustrating for us because I'm proud of my alma mater, College of Central Florida, because that's how I got where I am today. But that's not the case. So that's kind of what we're dealing with in Tallahassee. And they have these big like caucuses. They have a Florida State caucus. They have a UF caucus. It's made up of all their alumni, and it's fun and cool. And those universities have a ton of money, so they can offer these like huge receptions and, drinks and steak dinner. And then there's the college system. We're like trying to get people a job. So kind of where we're at. Any other questions?
It doesn't seem so. I'll jump in if there are more posted.
Okay, thanks, Ray. So my next slide is to maintain the Complete Florida Plus program. So to be honest, us government relations people had no idea really what this was. And I just kind of wanted to give you a brief history just so that you understand what they are and what they do. So in 2012, the State University System library automation people joined with the Distance Learning Consortium and Facts.org, and they formed the Florida Virtual Campus. And then the Florida Virtual Campus merged with Complete Florida Degree Program to become the Florida Plus program. And then, so all of this, so it's state university and college level, was hosted by University of West Florida. And so they had a pretty good budget. They had about 25 million, and they did a lot for our college students. They maintained and managed the state's online catalog of distance learning courses, degree programs, and resources. They provided statewide online student advising, provided information regarding access to distance learning. So they've done a lot for us. But last year, I remember getting emails from our library staff. They were telling me that there was these articles being published about University of West Florida, how they were using money for this program, but they were using it for deferred maintenance issues on campus. So they were using it for issues that they were having with buildings instead of using it, completely devoting it to the Complete Plus Florida program. So the governor found out about it, and he wasn't happy. So he vetoed our line item, which impacts state universities and colleges, for almost $30 million last year. So that's why we have it on here, because for us, we're not asking for more money because the legislature, the House and Senate, did approve to have it in the budget, but the governor vetoed it. So we're really trying to show the governor and the House and Senate that this is really necessary for the college and university system, and that we took it away from University of West Florida. It's now being hosted by Florida State University, and that's why it's important to us. So that's our other main budget priority. So a little bit about session dates. Usually in the past, they meet in December, but this year, because of COVID and so forth, they're not going to start meeting till January. So here are the different dates. So the week of January 11th, the 25th, and then the first 3 weeks in February. And then session starts March 2nd, and then it ends April 30th. And so what they do is, this year, session convenes in March, and that's because we just had an election. But every other year, so this next year, session will start in January. Committee meetings will begin in like September or October. And that's because they do that because of the election. So it's easier, like when Governor DeSantis or, the cabinet are elected, it gives them time to kind of get settled in, because they get elected in November and then they take office the beginning of January, and you can't like throw them into session beginning of January. So we decided to give them more time, not we, but legislators decided to give them more time to get acclimated with their role. And then the other part of that is it gives people more time to campaign, because session ends earlier. So it'll end in March next year, and that gives them more time to run for re-election or campaign or so forth. So here's a few tips I have for you. I'm not sure how involved all of you want to be, but I'm happy to help you any way I can. So here's just some few tips. So follow your legislative delegation and state leadership on social media. I mean, that's the easiest way to find out what's going on and what they're talking about. AFC does have the Current magazine, and I'm going to make sure I provide legislative updates on that. Please, before you do anything, work with your college governmental relations director. They want to help you. They want your advice. They want your insight. They want to know stories that you know. I mean, that's what we need, is that personal touch, and you have that personal touch. I would love to be able to speak at your regional or chapter meetings anytime. I think just knowing what we're doing, and I'm happy to, I would make it for your college or your region. So please let me know if you'd ever want me to speak at one of your meetings. And then if you're ever curious, like you want to stay in the know, go to the Florida Channel. They have a great weekly show, and it just tells you, they just talk about all the bills that are going on that week or what happens with elections or whatever, and it's nonpartisan. If you want to read information, there's the Safety Review, and then Florida Politics. It's literally just floridapolitics.com. And they just started today where you can sign up for text alerts. So I learned today that today was the Florida State Board of Education meeting, and I wasn't able to watch it all, but apparently through my text, I learned that they're going to continue virtual classes for the rest of the school year for K-12. So I learned that text message. So that's an easy way to stay informed, and you don't have to do a lot of work to try to get that information. Here are some tips, and these are tips that they're like pretty general. Like I said, like talk to your president or government relations director. Please do that before you reach out to anyone, just so that it's, we have a hard job, and we're trying to walk this line of legislator and college and being professional and not stepping on toes and getting money. And, it's a hard line. So please make sure that you talk to them before you reach out to any legislators. Do your research on the legislator and legislation. I won't say any more about that. Always use their proper title. I was with a nonprofit group in Tallahassee last session, helping them with something, and I looked at their sheet, and they had a representative. They had Representative blah blah blah, and he was a senator. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, please God, please don't let them walk into the senator's office and call him a representative. It's really important to get their title, make sure it's proper, their proper title. And if they serve as a chairman of a committee, call them a chairman. They just really respect that, and they appreciate that you took the time. It goes back to the researching the legislator type of thing. They appreciate that you know that. Send handwritten notes. I'm almost done, but I'm sending a handwritten note to all 160 legislators, just because it's just so important, because it's so much more personal. I'm against sending emails. It just doesn't go anywhere. After working in the Senate, our senator would get so many emails, and we couldn't even go through them all because we get so many. So if you have the opportunity to send a handwritten note, I really encourage you to do that, or a phone call, and thank them for what they've done in the past. A lot of them, you don't really get to that position by doing nothing. A lot of them have done a lot of great stuff in your community, so make sure you thank them for doing that. Always be polite to the staff and thank the staff. They're the ones that get things done. They're the ones that set up your meetings. They're the ones that are the inside person for that politician. So be polite and thank them, and let them know that they're important, because they are important. I've been in a lot of meetings, and I found that you need to listen to what the legislator's saying, because I think sometimes we go in those meetings and you just want to share, and this is my point, but you'll get more out of the meeting, and it'll be more beneficial if you listen to what they have to say, and maybe even rearrange what you wanted to say based on what they tell you. Be respectful, of course. I think that's in all areas of our life. You should be respectful, and your personal story is what is the most important. So I want to hear your story so that I can share it for the college system in general. But if you're meeting with a legislator, please share your personal story of why the college system is so important. So here is my contact information. I am a very personable person. You can email me anytime. I'd rather you can like me, or friend me on Facebook or Instagram, and that way I can see you and see your pictures and see your family, and you can see mine. I like doing that a lot. You can text me anytime as well. So here's my contact information. And then I'll make sure that, I guess they're probably sharing all these presentations somewhere. And then I just wanted to remind you why we all are here. We are here for the students, and I love them, and I'm so excited to represent them this next session.
I know those faces.
Yeah.
Jess, I think there was a question a little while back, and I think some people responded, but just wanted to make sure we got the information. The one that you said you're getting text alerts from, what was that from?
Sure, it's Florida Politics. Here, it's the one in the middle. That's the website. It's just floridapolitics.com. And they just, like I said, they just started it today, where it's on the very top of the screen. It has like a red thing like sign up for text alerts. And that'll get you in, it's in the know on state legislation. And if anyone was on here and they were interested in federal, we do some federal stuff, but only 1% of bills that are presented in Congress pass. So it's really important to me that we stay local, because we can get more accomplished with our local politics in your county and your city than in the state. So that's why I didn't cover any federal stuff today.
So there's a couple of things that were brought. There was actually a couple of points that was brought up in the email that have been pretty much hammered home to us over the years, and I would be remiss by not saying this. If you do decide to email any legislators, do not use college letterhead for a letter. Do not use college email, and do not use a college issued device. There are a couple of questions in here. Victor Colazzo asked, does the FCS partner with other organizations? In retirement, I'm on the Orange County League of Women Voters, EDCOM. We partner with the public schools on their efforts.
So we are working on that. We are working on what we're trying to do aligns, for example, with the Florida Chamber. So I've actually drafted this whole like strategy and timeline for all the college presidents and all this stuff so that we can do that. So I'm encouraging presidents and colleges or government relations directors to meet with their local chamber, meet with their school boards and whomever it is, so that we can make sure that we have strong advocates for when session comes in March. So yes, thank you for asking that. And it's very important for us to do that.
Okay, I think at this time, since Jessica's already wrapped, we've got about 17 or 18 minutes left for the presentation. If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute and go ahead and ask personally.
Jessica, I have a question about Twitter. Seems like from what we've heard from, I guess, media consultants, I guess, Twitter is kind of the new method of that seems that the legislators are following. Can you speak to Twitter usage? Is there is there any way that our AFC members that have Twitter accounts could, I know that the Council of Presidents has a Twitter. The Florida State College System has a Twitter feed. Maybe if our members retweeted some of these posts to help get the message out. It seems to me that Twitter is one of the methods that the legislators are actually paying attention to out there. Can you speak to any of that?
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's great. And kind of like what I was saying is, for your delegation, follow them on Twitter, comment on their posts and say thank you for whatever you're doing. Share the Florida College System, share AFC, share anything that promotes the college system on Twitter. You can, obviously y'all all know that you can tag people. I mentioned one website, the Safety Review. So if you do hashtag Safety Review, actually, I think even if you do hashtag Florida Politics, they both have a part of their homepage where their Twitter feed comes up. So if somebody uses their hashtag, it shows up on their Twitter feed. And like I said, those websites that I mentioned are the ones that all legislators read. So the more that you do all that, social media is huge. And I know it's really easy to be negative online, but it's really important that when you do something negative, do it this is my personal opinion. You should do it privately, because it's just important to do that in a personal meeting. Because you're representing more than yourself, and you're also, you don't really ever know the background of everything. So it's really important just to be positive in general on social media.
I would agree with that. And I would say that, please don't tweet bad things at our legislators. You know what I mean? Retweet the good stuff, the good about our system. AFC has a Twitter feed. Please retweet the good about our system and help spread the word. Is kind of what I was getting to, because it seems to be that I think there was they were saying that there was a tweet about the Florida college system that included a legislator recently, and they retweeted it, I guess, or whatever. And so they are seeing some of that stuff on Twitter.
They do. They see that stuff. Yeah. They look at that stuff all the time. They have. I know in our delegation, they have College of Central Florida students working for them that do their social media. So those students see it and they share with the legislator. So it's really important that you do that stuff.
Jessica, there was a question from Jose, that guy on our campus. It was kind of back, and I think it got mixed in with the other questions. Maybe you can kind of explain this. His question is about how can AFC lobby on behalf of the college system. So can you kind of explain the relationship of what AFC, how we work with the lobbyists and things to help promote issues?
Sure, I can try. I don't really know what's going to happen, I guess. So the way it kind of has worked, or not kind of, but has worked, is that you pay your dues to be a member of AFC, and a portion, because you're not required to do that. So you have a membership to AFC. And because of that, the Association of Florida Colleges is able to have hire a contract lobbyist. And you might be wondering, well, why do we need to spend money on a contract lobbyist when you have Jessica? Yay. No, sorry. Unfortunately, I am not a previous Speaker of the House. And as much as I can try to get in with the Speaker or try to get in some of these meetings, these lobbying firms hire previous legislators who have a little bit more pull than lowly Jessica. So it's been really important, because they might only meet with the Speaker or the appropriations chair, whomever it is, 1 or 2 times, but it's worth the money to spend on them, because we're trying to lobby for our own colleges, and we're up there trying to represent the whole system. And like I said, we're not previous legislators who have the contacts. I mean, I have a lot of contacts, but not like somebody that was a former Speaker of the House. Did I answer that, Marjorie? You think the best?
I think so. It's just kind of telling people how it works right now with our system, and how AFC works together with the Council of Presidents to get stuff done.
And for me, I mean, that's kind of what I was trying to explain, is I put together a grassroots program, and I haven't really, it's not been officially put in place or approved yet, but because I think that all of you can make a big difference. And I mean, I know that it sounds simple, but following the social media pages, and I've met with your Marketing and Public Relations Commission about working with them and how we can inform AFC members on what they can post so that it makes it better or makes a big difference, like in Tallahassee, and like what you can share with legislators on social media. Because I think that you all have a voice, and I want to hear it, and I think they want to hear it too. So I want to help do that this year, and that's what I'm trying to do. Even if, like I was saying, just let me talk to you at your regional meetings and your college chapter meetings. I want to do that, and I think that helps motivate people to make a difference.
Anyone else? Okay, Dr. John Woods just asked in the chat, do you have AFC Legislative Committee meetings, and if so, when? Sure. So our legislative committee meetings are typically when the Council of Presidents meets so it's usually like they have their professional development meetings in the morning, and then they have the business meetings in the afternoon. So typically on our schedule, we meet during the professional development meetings when it's just presidents. But if you'd like to join us, we'd be happy to have you, for sure. Anyone else? You're welcome, Holly. Again, if you wish to ask a question, feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself. We've got about 10 minutes left in the session. If not, we can go ahead and wrap up early, and Jessica can finish writing her 350 handwritten notes.
Jess, I noticed the legislators were wearing red roses yesterday. Is there a significance to that?
Red, well, the majority was wearing red, and then the minority party was wearing white.
Okay.
And they get those from the offices. So the majority office gives the Republicans roses, and then the minority office gives the Democrats roses. And I will say, I mean, I know, everybody is across the board as far as what their party is, but I really feel that the Speaker of the House, he really wants to be across party lines. Like he really wants to make a difference and not be a super conservative. And there's a lot of legislators that are like that. So whether they're Democrat or Republican, don't lose hope in your local delegation members, because they represent you. They represent their constituents. So they want to hear your voice.
Early on in your presentation, you mentioned that they're focusing on non-traditional students and specifically workforce programs. And, most of that is through us, not the universities. So right. Why does that always seem to be, not even a point of conversation? Why does it always seem to be funneled to the universities themselves, other than the obvious, what you said before about the big ballrooms and all that fun stuff?
Right. Just because they're so, I don't know how to say it. They're just so well known. I think that, like I was kind of saying earlier, I know I keep saying, we kind of get lost in the middle because we have like the big K-12, and then we have the big universities, and then here's us, trying to make our way through it all. And we serve our communities. That's what we do. So I think just letting them know and letting them see what programs that we offer and how we're trying to meet the demands for our workforce. We get at CF, we have the hospitals coming to us and the chambers and telling us what they need, and that's what we're trying to work on.
Well, most of the colleges, tailor their programs to the communities anyway. Right. You guys are the only college in Florida that has an equestrian program, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right, exactly. But we have to remember that legislators, they hear everything from everyone. Mm-hmm. So you just have to make sure that you're sharing with them what we're doing. Because they're hearing, they literally hear everything from everyone. So I think it's just important. That's why it's important to do all this stuff I was sharing with you all, because the more touches we have with legislators on a positive note, the better, because every arena comes into play when everything boils down in session.
All right, well, it looks like that's all we have for today. I don't see any other questions coming up. So thank you very much, Jessica. That was a fantastic presentation, and thank you for taking all those questions. I know that sometimes it feels thankless what you do, but we greatly appreciate all your efforts in Tallahassee. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And please email me, text me, or Facebook message me, or whatever you want, anytime.
All righty. Go back to writing those letters, lady.
On it.
All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you for attending.
Thanks so much, Jessica.
Jessica, thank you, Marjorie.
Bye, Jessica.
Bye.
Jose, you're a mess.